Well, hello, educator friends. I am Ross Braun, and you are listening to the School Life series. I hope that you are having a great day wherever you are and whatever you might be doing. We are back in season 3 of the School Life series, and as I told you in the intro, hopefully you've listened to, but if you haven't, this series is all about real educators, real stories, and real strategies. So, like in the first 2 seasons, we are intentionally giving you 30 to 40 minutes of just PD on your own from super authentic, genuine educators all around the country. And we are hoping that every episode will give you something that makes you not just a better educator, but a better person as well. So when I say real educators, we've got one today, and I am so excited that she was on the very first episode of this season because I've tried to get her on for the past 2 episodes, and both of us have busy lives. Emily is just an incredible educator, but she is also an awesome mom and just human being. And if you've listened to the first 2 seasons, you know that is something I pride myself on. Every guest that we have on the School Life series is a better person than they are an educator, and today is no doubt the same. I remember the first time I met Emily. We were speaking together in the Get Your Teach On network. And I had followed Emily for like years on social media, read her book. And every time like I had an interaction, a digital interaction with Emily, I was like, she's like me, right? It was so genuine. I never had met Emily in my life. And then we met, and I remember thinking, oh, that's true. She is just like me. She is such, just a great person as you seem online in this crazy, social media digital world. So, ladies and gentlemen, Emily Paschall from Alabama. And Emily, thank you for having me on. Or
Thank
having me on. Thank you for joining me on the School Life series.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad we
Yeah.
finally made it work.
Yeah, seriously. So I gave you a little intro, but not enough. So we want to know about you. Just tell us about who you are, your personal life, your passions. What is life like for you?
Okay, so yes, first and foremost, I am a mother of an incredible 7-year-old. She is in the second grade this year, and so I am so passionate about my job and about education. But as life rolls along, my goodness, like if we aren't modeling it in our own homes and being the parents that we need to be, what are we even about in the world of education? And
Yeah.
so the further I get into this, the more I'm like, as she gets older, like my home life is first, right? My home life is first. And
Hmm.
and as a leader, modeling that more and more. And that's something that I take pride in. I love what I do, but I love what I do even more at home. And that's where it's the most important.
Hmm.
And here's my dog that he's going to keep on popping up here every once in a
Yeah.
while. Anyway, this is Waffles.
It's good.
So my personal life,
Waffles.
he's the cutest dog. Anyway, but yes, and in my own time, I love to be outside. I love to run. That gives me some good old mental health, right?
Hmm.
And I am
Yeah,
from Sweet
we
Home,
all have to have
Alabama.
something.
So
Yes.
the accent is probably thick to you people who are not from here, but I'm not as bad as
Yep.
some. So
Yeah, it's real too. The accent is real. There's nothing fake about that. That's for sure. I've got to hear you speak a few times, have dinner with you multiple times, and every time I think it gets a little thicker, but
yeah, that's
it's
funny.
great. It makes you who you are, though. That's one thing I think I really appreciate about you is like you are who you are, and there's
Yeah.
nothing fake about it. Who you show up to dinner as is who you show up on the stage
Oh,
speaking to a
thank you.
thousand people as,
Thank
and
you.
that means a lot, especially in this world and in education. So thank you for that. Now
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your educational career. So you've got some big changes that have happened
I
recently,
do.
but before we get to that, like what led you into education? Where did you start? Where's your journey taking you?
So it's funny. One of my high school math teachers is still shocked at where I am today because I was way more concerned about my social life when I was in school. Anyway,
I can
shocking.
see that.
Anyway, oh yeah, but yeah. So going in college, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was that typical kid that's like, I don't know, and I thought I'd go into psychology. I've always loved people. I mean, it was for sure going to need to be something social. And I started a few classes and then, just kind of had this moment of, if I'm a teacher, like I am a mental health person, and I am a
Hmm.
counselor, and I am a teacher, and I thought about social worker at one point. Well, you're that too when you're a teacher. And so something just kind of pricked my heart. Yeah. So when I'm in college, I finally, I had someone that really inspired me and thought, okay, I
Hmm.
want to be with kids. That's what I want to do. So I went into that. And the past 15 years, I have been in the elementary world. So I've taught first,
Yeah.
third, and fifth grade. And then I went on to the district level, and I was a math specialist for the district. And so I had experience, for the very first time stepping out of your classroom into other people's classrooms and working with adults. And I did that a few years. And then ever since, I have been a school administrator. Well, this past year, took a
Yeah.
plot twist, and I know you might have questions about that, but now I'm in the secondary world as of August, and I am getting to work in a career technical center. So that is my
Wow.
current reality
Yeah,
for the
that's
first time,
awesome.
secondary.
And that's really that's going to be our topic here in just a few minutes is career readiness. And I'm excited to dive into that with you because it is such a new world for you, but for both of us, I think as educators, it's something we've always like had our eyes on, or sometimes it's a moving target, and so we'll get into that. But thank you for sharing your journey. I love that. One thing that I say now, like I never in a million years I thought I'd be doing what I'm doing now, supporting schools in this role. But at the end of the day, I'm still an educator, right? Like I will
Right.
forever be an educator. And so I'm sure you feel that way now. You're like, secondary, what in the world am I
Yeah.
doing here? Like you're not tying
Right.
any shoes or anything. It's crazy,
I know. Wiping
but you're
any
still
noses.
educating. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
still educating. You're still changing lives. And the impact looks so different. And so, thank you for sharing that. Now, you mentioned somebody in college that inspired you, but this next question I love because we just get so many just genuine golden answers. But who in your life you can say has influenced you? It can be personally, professionally, same person, doesn't matter. When I ask that question, who comes to mind?
Someone who has influenced me professionally. I'm going to say two. The first one was Lynn Wade that I was mentioning earlier. He was one of my
Hmm.
professors, and just, I mean, he was in education for 50 years, and he's just
Wow.
retired, and he's in his 80s.
Yeah.
Just absolutely amazing. And he's the first one that just really pricked my heart on, education. You've got to have heart and mind. Like it's that
Mm,
balance of
that's good.
both. And so often we're good at one or the other, and we've got to learn how to be both. And we can't just feel sorry for kids, right? We've got
Hmm.
to get them out of the hole that they're in, or we can't just be so hard on kids that we don't build that relationship with them and meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And so my current one would be AJ Buckner. He is like, just one of my
Hmm.
greatest mentors now, of just asking, advice, professional advice. He has more experience than me, and just in that leadership lens, being able to reach out to somebody and see things from a different angle, and
Yeah.
understand things differently and get that honest feedback and advice. You've got to
That's
find those
good.
people that aren't always going to think exactly like you.
Yes. Yeah, I was getting ready to say the same thing. That's so great that you shared that because I'm a huge proponent of that, and I try to share that with as many people as possible. Like, surround yourself with people that will absolutely value you and build you up,
Yes.
but at the same time aren't afraid to say, "Look, this isn't working," or "Try
Yeah.
this," or "Try that," because they can
Right.
still be a fan and still give you criticism and critique and advice. And so, at the end of the day, you can't do this alone. Like, you have to have people just like AJ,
Right.
because if you try to do this alone, then good luck. It's not
Yeah.
going to work. You're not going to
Exactly.
have any success. You're going to be tired, burnt down, beat down, you name it. So
Yes.
thank you for that. Next question is something that, in probably your leadership, because you've been in leadership the past few years, in leadership, what was a game changer or a hack per se for your school life? Like something that you implemented and you felt like you were just fighting fires, but once you did that, you were like, I can breathe. I'm above water now.
Okay. Ooh, that's a big one. I'm gonna say, in leadership, it is so easy to get overwhelmed by the
Mm-hmm.
amount of fires that there are. And, and I don't know, whoever's listening, I don't know what kind of school you're in. I don't know if you're in a really affluent school or if you're in a school that's super high poverty. But in every school, there's a whole lot of problems, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that, a lot of problem solving. And so if we just see these fires and then it just starts getting bigger and bigger, and all we do is sit around and talk about the problem and come up with excuses,
Mm.
we're not making any changes. And so
Nope.
every school is filled with kids that need out of the house that's on fire, right? And the
Mm.
way that you do that is one kid at a time. And
That's good.
one of the biggest hacks that I could give is, we have RTI, MTSS meetings. I mean, the lingo is always changing, but
You
we have
name
all
it.
these
Yep.
data meetings. Like we sit around and we talk about kids, right? Well, so often I find myself guilty of sitting around and just talking about the problems,
Hmm.
right? Well, we
Yeah.
can focus on the problem or we can focus on the solution. And so
Yes.
one of my hacks is that I now am so, and this is for me, this is to hold myself accountable. But in those meetings, when we come up with these kids where we don't know what the solution is yet, we all need a bulletin board in every one of those meeting rooms where we write that kid's name on a wall, on a sticky note, and put it on the wall. It's
Mm.
about continuing the conversation. We fail as leaders when we don't continue the conversation. And so having that kind of norm in your school where you come back to continue the conversation and talk about that kid until you come up with some solutions to try new things. It's
Mm.
about one kid at a time, one kid
I
at a
love that.
time. And that's when the fires start to go out.
Yeah.
When we do focus in and but it takes that
Ugh.
intentionality.
Yeah. That gave me chills. Like just hearing that, we could probably in the episode now, and everybody would be like, "Thank you, Emily. That was perfect." Because that's how I feel. But you're absolutely right, and I think uh, as I'm working with more and more schools, you're absolutely right. Everybody has problems, right?
Right,
And I would say the majority of schools right now in the United States are focused solely on the problems and not the solutions.
right,
And
right,
it puts us in a state that is not good. Education is not good right now because of
right,
this mentality. And so I love that you said like we've got to just start finding solutions,
right.
focusing on the solutions. Stop
Yeah,
talking about the problems because they're not changing. And really, 9 out of 10 problems are out of our control. There's something that's mandated to us that we can't fix. And so let's
right.
start focusing on the solutions.
Yeah,
And
let's do
two,
it a different way, people.
yeah,
You know,
I just remember sitting in so many just case conferences and meetings and that we would have once a year on a student, and we put in goals and then see you next year.
right.
We never evaluate the goals and
Yeah,
follow up and make sure
right,
that the goals work and the solution. So
right. Stop turning
that is
education into a checkbox.
yeah,
It's
absolutely,
about
because
kids.
it's about kids and their lives, real lives.
Right.
And so, our last little introductory question. This is just something fun. Provide a little laugh and a smile here. It's a share a you wouldn't believe it moment in your career. So something that happened to you, you did, or you were involved with that you're just like, you wouldn't believe this, but I did this or this happened.
Okay,
And
so
you were in elementary for many,
basically,
many years.
what have I done that is just totally humiliating? And
Yeah, that's
share it
it.
with all the people. No, I'm just
We'll
kidding.
call it vulnerability.
Right,
Vulnerability.
here we go. Yeah. Oh goodness. Okay, so I've got two. I've got two. All right. So first of all, this is like early in okay, I'm going to tell this one first. My very first year of teaching, I'm like 22 years old, and we have a faculty meeting, which is also a baby shower for one of these teachers, and so I was late to the meeting because I had a parent conference. And so I thought, I mean, I'm thinking I am really late and I'm just like coming in on the tail end of this. And so I come in and, all the food's on the table. And so I just come in quietly because they're wrapping things up. And so I like make my food, make my plate, get the cake, baby shower cake, and like sit down. And I'm like, like it's like after the school day and I'm like
Yeah.
chomping down. I look around, ain't nobody got food. Ain't nobody got food. And so, like, I'm this brand new kid. I mean, might as well be a kid.
Yeah.
And I look at the reading coach and I'm like, have y'all not had the baby shower yet? She was like, and so, like, then when everybody realizes the room erupts and is like, oh, man.
That's
Anyway,
hilarious.
so that was funny. There's another time I was teaching And I was, if you've seen me present, like I'm like a Muppet. Like if someone tied my hands behind my
Hmm.
back when I teach, like it'd be
Hmm.
punishment. And so I'm standing on the desks, like I'm walking on the tables in the classroom because I'm just like, engaged, right? Getting the kids' attention. And so I am
Yeah,
on the desk
engagement.
barefoot, and then our district office comes in for like a unannounced walkthrough, and they
Oh
stay
my.
for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. I have no idea. But I just remember standing there thinking, nothing I can do. Like,
What
here
do
it
you do
is.
at that point? Yeah.
Here we go. We'll just keep on going. Anybody else want to take their shoes off? Like, anyway, so just moments like that. Like, my goodness,
Yeah,
you just can't
I
make that
love
stuff.
it. I said that when I introduced you, though. Like, who you are is what you get, and there's
I
no
know.
changing that. And
I
so
know.
I like to hear that you've always been that way,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
it was your first baby shower with the
And the next
staff
year,
or
yeah, the next year I became the math coach. So, hey, it worked. It worked out.
somebody saw something that they liked right there. We'll leave it at that.
Or they were like, get her out of the classroom. No.
Yeah, right. We can't have her. That's funny. But all right, we're going to dive into our main topic here. And so, the idea of this season, real educators, we've got you, real stories. We've obviously heard a few of those, real strategies. And so today's topic is something that I would say is kind of a hot topic right now in education. But I think so many people are like just in so many different spots. As an
Yeah.
elementary administrator, and you can probably relate to this a little bit, when I say career readiness, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like throwing noodles at the wall and hopefully it sticks. Like, what do we do as an elementary administrator or teacher to get our kids ready for careers in their
Yeah.
future? And that has just shifted so much, like for 20 years, forever in education, I'm sure, but in the past 15 years, it's like college readiness, college readiness, college readiness.
Oh, yeah.
And then now all of a sudden, states and everybody are saying, no, we've got to make sure our kids are ready for careers. And then you're saying, okay, well, what do we do? And so from an elementary standpoint, it's just like, oh no. From a secondary high school setting, I see from the outside looking in, a lot of high schools that are doing an extremely good job of this.
Yeah.
Like, unbelievable. Like, their kids are walking out the day they graduate high school into a career making $75,000 a year and are more skilled than 75% of the employees in that company. And then I see high schools that are not doing anything in this point, and
Right.
their students are so far behind. And then I see centers like you are leading, and it's just so special to see like kids that are there, and it doesn't even look like high school to some degree,
Oh, my.
right? Because of
Yeah.
the things that they are doing at 16, 17, 18 years old. It just blows your mind, I'm sure. So that is my like takeaway when I say career readiness. Is just like, holy cow, like where are we, right? And where are we going?
Right.
And so when I say career readiness for you in this brand new role, what do you respond with?
Oh man. So career readiness. My mind is blown right now with all
Yeah.
of it, as because I've always wanted this experience to see like what does education look like from spectrum to spectrum, from age
Hmm.
4 to age 18, maybe even one day, 22. I mean, what
Yeah.
does that look like? How does it all connect? And so now my wheels, I mean, like I'm up late at night thinking about all of this and thinking, career
Hmm.
readiness. Career readiness needs to start at a very, my perspective right now. I have a 7-year-old, and when
Yeah.
we talk to our kids at that age, we are saying to them, when you have a career, when you do this, not if, not
Wow.
if.
I love that
And
mindset.
kids,
Hmm.
there's so much research behind that when you talk to kids in that way, that they are going to be something, they are going to be successful, and that it is a reality and a fact. The potential for that shoots up so much in the
Hmm.
statistics. And so when we talk to kids that are tiny little kids, and they're like, be a professional athlete,
Yeah.
great. Go do that for a few years, baby. But also, what else are you going, let's talk about what
Yeah.
else you can do too. And so
Right.
happen, just it's, it's about the language we're using with kids when they're little. And it's about that, and we can talk about some strategies in a second if that's what you're wanting to talk about. But
Hmm.
it's got to start with making kids believe in themselves.
Yeah.
They have to hear that language from us that we believe in them, and exposing them to different careers that they can understand, and just
Hmm.
letting them see different people in their worlds of that is surrounding them in their community, their immediate community, of construction workers and
Yeah.
people who work in electrical and people who do all of these different things. You can do that too one day, and they're going to be like,
Yeah.
what? I can. Yes, and you
Hmm.
are going to do that, and you get to pick which pathway.
I love it
um
because, and you know what? Just I can think back to my elementary career, in a time where college readiness was it, right?
yeah,
And I remember feeling, if I go to college, I can do this, right? There
yeah,
was never like, it's okay if you don't go to college because look at what you can do. Or it was never even like life after college. I think so many people, our age, went to college for something and then they didn't know what they wanted to do after college. They just knew they had to go to college.
yeah,
And so just love that whole mindset change. And it's a funny story too. You say, I want to be a professional athlete. I think, all of us at some point had our eyes set on some career that was never going to happen, right? I'm 5'9" in my Nikes, and I was going to be an NBA player at one point in my life, no doubt about that. But um, I just saw this past week on social media a Indianapolis Colts football player that I absolutely idolized growing up, and wanted to be like him. Is a real estate agent, has his own real estate actually company in Indianapolis, post NFL career. And I
yeah,
had that thought even before like this conversation. I thought, wow, that needs to be shown to so many kids
right,
that this NFL player had a great NFL career after he retired at the ripe age of 40, right? 40, maybe 39. He went on and he now has a career after football. Like
right,
even the biggest, brightest stars, I mean, have the have to have a career after football because they can't just retire at 39 and say, I'm not going to do anything for the next 40, 50 years. And so, how can we get people like that involved in
right.
education, sharing their stories and saying, this is it. So, no, I love that. That's cool.
No.
So,
You think
uh,
about like lower elementary, their study standards are about the world around them.
mhm,
That wasn't by accident.
community.
Like their
Hmm.
communities, what
Yeah.
exists in the world around you. And what a great time to start teaching that just in our everyday language. It doesn't have to
Yes.
take long.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah, I was a social studies teacher, and I was a huge proponent of that. Like, because before I was just teaching social studies, K through four teachers are like, we don't have time for social studies, and so as the kind of building lead for social studies, I would say, don't. That's okay to not have time for social studies. Incorporate it in every
right.
conversation,
Every
right? That's
right.
yes, and that's okay. So no, that's good. So Emily, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about like your center, what you do there, and what your students are doing as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I am the instructional supervisor. So it's an
Okay.
administrative role,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a pretty innovative role in the school system too. For people in administration that are listening, they have it's an administrative role, but it is solely focused on instruction. So, the past few years I've been that administrator, but that includes discipline, attendance, I mean,
Yeah.
all these things. Well, they protect it. They protect this role, and they are like, you are instruction. And so that means working with teachers side by side and coaching and protecting the most important part of the school day, right? I mean, the learning,
Hmm.
the learning.
Yeah.
And so my center has 22 different programs. And so it's like Pandora's box. Like one moment I am in cosmetology getting my eyebrows waxed by a former student. And then next moment I'm walking into automotive and I'm like in a car shop. I mean, like it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. And so there are 22 different programs. We have electrical, we have building construction, we have IT, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, like, and so these kids, next week we're doing tech tours because we're a tech center. So we're doing tours
Hmm.
for our current ninth graders and every single ninth grader is coming on our campus over the next week, and they're going to get to see what our center is all about, and they're going to get to tour every single program. And if they're interested in coming to our tech center, they get to choose their top 3 choices of what is a career interest for them and
Mm-hmm.
commit to that for the next 3 years. And so it is just what I love so much about what I've stepped into is all 22 of these, well, there's a few more than 22 instructors, but the 22 instructors at this tech center were not teachers first.
Mm-hmm.
They were experts of their trade. And so you don't have to worry about their passion. I mean, they are so passionate about what they
Yeah.
do. It is just so amazing to see. And what I also love is I am not an expert of what they do. Like, it is
Right.
such a
And you couldn't
partnership.
be. You can't be an expert in
No,
cosmetology and an expert in mechanics. Like, it's not
I'm in
possible.
like
Yeah.
manufacturing the other day, and he's teaching me how to braze metal, and I'm like, what is my life? Like, this is,
Yeah.
I never dreamed
So,
I'd be doing something like this. Anyway, but it is so amazing because it builds that partnership with them of I am here to support you and help you however I can. I have some instructional strategies to bring, and I know some things that I can help like on the educational side, but my goodness, like you are the expert of what you do. And that just immediately builds that level playing field, right? When
mm-hmm.
I'm in there, and I love, love, love that about what I'm getting to do every single day. And so, and I'll try to sum this up, but their first and second year that they're in our center, they're really learning about their program. The hope is that by their third year, when they're seniors, if they come all 3 years, that they're in work-based learning, that we're finding them
Yeah.
different industries around our center that they can then go and work in field. And because, when we were talking earlier, Ross, about I like what happens after they leave high school.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? Like then what? Well, we get to control
Yeah.
that and have an impact on that because that's setting the stage that after you graduate, you're ready. You've got a job.
Yeah.
You might be part-time right now, but now you're connected to an industry where they can take you on full time and you are
Mm-hmm.
ready for your career the moment you leave our center and graduate high school.
Amazing.
Breaking the cycle of
To
poverty.
me, exactly.
Breaking the
I see it
cycle of
as
poverty.
a bridge, right?
Yeah.
Before, and the bridge wasn't connected, I didn't think, to real world, real life.
Right.
Like we did a lot of things to prepare them, but we never connected the bridge. We
No.
said, jump off, we hope you swim, right? we never finished constructing the
Yeah.
bridge. We
And our
gave you,
career coach,
floaties, but that's
yes,
it.
like our career coaches are absolutely amazing. Last week, a student who had
Mhm.
already graduated was coming back to have a meeting with her career coach to get some advice, about what to do
Yeah.
next. And I mean, that's what it's about. That
Yeah.
is that is the missing link. If we are not doing this everywhere in our nation and around the world, that we're missing it. We're missing it. And I have not fully
Hmm.
understood it until now either.
Yeah. That's cool. And I can't wait because I know you and I know your voice. Your thick Southern accent. You are going to use it, right? And I can't wait to see you use your voice to share this with the rest of the country in our education system because it needs to happen. It needs people like you to share that. And so I got 2 follow-ups to what you just said.
Okay.
And one of them talking about your teachers there at the center. This past August, I did a little back to school tour, kicking educators off around the country, and I found myself in Dallas at a CTE program that was incredible. They had over 110 teachers in their CTE program, and it was the most nervous I had ever been to speak because none of them were traditional, especially me, elementary educators, right? And I was
Right.
stepping into this room with former lawyers, firefighters, like all of them that were so much smarter and more skilled in all these different careers than I am. And I was super nervous in it. But I gave them the same message about education, about what our role is as educators and pouring in kids and relationships and love and support and opportunities, all these things. And afterwards, it was one of the most best, like rewarding feelings because everyone came up afterwards and were like, I needed that message. I am was the best lawyer in town, or, I could fight fires all day long, or I can fix anything you want on a car. but I think I've been missing that relationship piece in my teaching, right? And
Right.
hearing you share this was really, opened my eyes or whatever. And so that's it. Like your teachers, while they may be experts in all these different fields, like at the end of the day, we all have a heart for kids. We're all in education now. And so it's
Yeah.
really special to see in those centers. And then the question I have for you, because I've heard this, one of our schools nearby where I'm at is doing a really good job with career readiness. But some of the kickback and questions they are getting is, what if a student changes their mind in year two? How do you handle that?
That's a
Because
great
we've all been there, right? Like some of us changed majors 2 or 3 times in college.
right.
So how do you handle that?
So we let them.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mean,
Yeah.
that's the easy answer. But we let them. Now we do pay attention. There's the graduation requirements and some things like that.
Hmm.
Where and I know the language is different across the states, but we want to make sure that kids are on track to have their career readiness indicator and things like that for graduation purposes. And so we're guiding in that way. But yeah, when a kid comes and I mean, we've got some right now that are in their first year and they're like, this is not what I thought this was going to
Hmm.
be,
Yeah.
So when that happens, the career coaches get involved. And oh my goodness, I mean, they are essential. They are absolutely essential in these high schools if we're utilizing them correctly. And so that's where they get involved and they do career assessments with the kids and they start tapping into their interests, their strengths,
Yeah.
and really letting kids, because they just haven't thought about it before. I mean, like most of them just haven't thought about what am I going to do with my life? I mean, like they're worried
Hmm.
about what they're going to do on TikTok next, their next post that
Yeah.
they're going to make.
Yeah.
So having those conversations but that is okay if a kid didn't select the right one. That's why I love that we have 3 years at ours. Some only
Hmm.
have 2, and everybody has to do it differently and what works for them. But I do love that we do have opportunities for kids to be there for 3 years because they can make that second choice if needed. They're
Hmm.
not locked in forever.
Okay, that's good. I was curious about that,
Yeah,
and
good
I'm
question.
sure that was the case. But and at the end of the day, too, like I'm sure all of us listening, and you and I can relate to this and say we all worked a first job somewhere that we didn't like, we
Right,
weren't very good at. But
right,
you look back and you're like, I learned a lot. If anything, I learned about the importance of showing up on time and doing what I'm
right,
told, like, right?
right,
And so I think just the career readiness part is just preparing kids for real life.
right.
I can't remember how many conversations I had as an elementary principal saying, if you act this way in a job in 10 years or 15 years, you will get fired.
right.
Like
You
that's a
know,
big component.
yeah. And I'm over here like, if, thinking back to elementary world, I'm like, wouldn't it be amazing if we did let kids clock in when they got to school? Wouldn't
Hmm.
it be awesome if they got, if we had some of our management systems school wide linking from elementary up to high school? Like, hey, you're here to work. Like, you're here
Yes.
to prepare for your career. You're going to, that just sets, if kids are clocking in and then, they're earning their time and then like, getting these extra breaks or whatever, types of rewards that
Yep.
we get in real
Yeah.
life. We get rewarded for doing our jobs well. We get to, why not change the language in the lower grades, and start
Yeah.
that earlier so kids do better understand that expectation and that work ethic.
Yep.
Not just, oh, sad face today, like I'm not making light of it. That's what I did. Like, which just, oh, not a good day, well, like, why can't we have that language of,
Hmm.
you failed, you didn't perform well on your job today. Like, how can we be a better,
Right.
future employee
That's,
tomorrow? I mean,
hmm
just things like
yeah.
that. Like, anyway,
Hmm.
yeah,
That's
that's
great. We
simple.
didn't plan this out, but my role now with school life is, we started this really cool attendance campaign in schools all across the country. And when I go to schools and I speak and I launch the campaign, that's my message to kids. This is your job
This
today.
is your job.
Your job is to learn and get the education that you deserve and you need. It starts with showing up every day.
Right, right,
And so that's part of the campaign is we reward kids for
right,
showing up. Like when they show up so many days, they're getting rewards, and it's not
right,
monetary, but it's stuff that they want to collect and earn and all that. But just showing them, like, when you show up, you should get rewarded for it, because this is it, and
Right.
it's building healthy habits
Yeah.
that they need to
And
be
there's
there. And so,
right. And there is that balance. There's some kids
mhm,
that are 5 years old, and if they're not coming to school, that's an adult problem, right? Like we, the adults, have to
yeah,
work it out. And so I don't want to, I want to make sure I make that clear because people don't know me.
yeah,
I'm like,
no,
I'm not over
yeah,
here saying punish a kid for not coming to school. It ain't their fault. But, just starting that language, about when
yep,
you have a job one day and, and things like that. I just think
yeah.
small tweaks like that could make a big
And I've
difference.
met some kids in that standpoint. Like, yes, it is an adult problem, but like I've I've met some really resilient kids
Right.
that did have an adult problem in their home,
They got to
and
learn to rise
they
above
said
it.
they rose above it, and they got
That's right.
themselves ready for school, and they walked to school, or they got
Right.
themselves on the bus
That's right.
without that adult. And like, man, like those kids are the ones that are going to be leading companies one day,
That's right.
because of the amount of resilience that they have inside them. And
That's
that's
right.
it. So cool. Well, we're already, like, I knew we would go long, but yeah, what else? Anything else you want to share when it comes to career readiness and just the importance of it, where people can start? Anything else?
Oh man. I think it just starts with that win language.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wrap it up with one story. So, and I talk about it in my book, and it's just amazing how things come full circle. But my pivotal moment in my teaching career was when I remember I was early. I mean, it was like in my earlier years, and I had my kids get out their math workbook that day, and I was teaching this lesson, I think, on multiplication. And I mean, the kids were just like, I mean, like it was after lunch and they were tired and they were bored. And I remember going home that night and thinking, okay, this isn't working. Like, what can I do? What can I do to really change this, transform this, and still teach the same standard, but change my approach? And so the next day, I like bust it. And there's a video of it on YouTube. I mean, like, I ended up recording this moment because I wanted to go back and watch my students' reactions. And so I bust into the classroom wearing this construction outfit. And I come in and the kids are just like locked. I mean, locked in, like, what is this crazy lady doing? And I start telling them, like, they are the architects and I'm the construction worker, and I need them to design the dream house for our customer. They want a dream house. And so I was teaching about area. That's what it was about, area and perimeter.
Hmm.
And so then all of a sudden it matters, right? Like the kids have voice and choice in what their assignment is going to
Hmm.
look like, and they are passionate about it because they all want that really cool room, right, in their house.
Yeah.
And I mean, just immediately, like 100% engagement. And it wasn't hard. I mean, all it took was find a little tool belt. Anyway, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, that was my moment where I was just like, oh, okay, like I missed it. I got to make this real life for them. Like it needs to matter. Our lessons need to matter to kids no matter how old they are. And
Hmm.
so, okay, so fast forward. So that happened. And then I just
Hmm.
changed everything about my approach to teaching. So then I'm on my first day in this job. So those kids were third graders at that time. Okay. So fast forward to my first day in this job. And this student comes up to me and he says, Miss Paschall. And I was like, I'm not going to say his name, but I was like,
Yes.
Bobby,
Right away.
Bobby, oh my
Hmm.
goodness, I'm so excited. He said, hey, this is my first day at Tech. And I am not making this up. This is my first day at Tech. He was like, do you remember that dream house assignment we did? That's
Yeah,
why I
I know where this
chose
is
the
going.
drafting program.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I chose the drafting program.
Hmm.
I was like, stop. Like, did someone pay you to come say this to me?
Yeah.
I mean, like 9 years later, like he remembered that lesson where he was getting to learn about dimensions and designing and having a client
Hmm.
and a customer and like all these things. And now he's in drafting. And now I get to go in there and see him making true blueprints and designs for it. And I'm just like, okay. I mean, that
Yeah.
moment was just everything for me of they are not too young to start in elementary school teaching them about their purpose, their why, and why they have an importance in the world that we live in. And they are the future generation. But we
All
can't
right.
just keep saying that. We've got to show them. We've got to show
Hmm.
them their purpose and start teaching them now about what they are going to be, what they
I
are
love
going
that.
to be. And
Love
so,
that. You could have taught
mm,
area many, many different ways, right?
right,
And
right.
the doing it that way inspired an entire life. right? And
Right.
that's the impact that educators, and I share this almost every episode. I feel like somehow this gets brought in, the impact of an educator,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You are that educator for this young man.
So
When
he's
I ask him in 10 years in a conversation who influenced you in your life, he's going to say Ms. Paschall in that one lesson and area. And that's truly, when we say every kid needs a champion, that's what we say, right?
right.
And so that
That's
is
right.
it. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up.
So,
I always wrap it up
okay.
with two things. What advice do you give to any educator, regardless of their role, where they're at? If I said, what advice would you give to anybody in education? What is that?
Okay. So I'm going to go Todd Miscellany on him for a second. You ready?
Okay,
This
he's
is
a
my
good one to go
favorite. This
to.
is my favorite quote of all times. So listen up, any educator. I don't care what role you're in. Schools do not exist so that adults can have jobs. Schools exist for kids.
Yes.
And so often we make it about us. And that is the biggest thing. And, the thing that I'm the most passionate about is it is not about me. It is not about me, and it is not about you. And when we remember that every single day, we make decisions by kids. But we are in a world right now where we want to be more about me, and we are not the reason schools exist. And so we got to keep it kid-centered, kid-focused.
Love that. Love that. Perfect. And then what advice do you give to your students, whether it was your previous elementary students or your high school students now? What advice would you give to any young mind?
The two things that are going to make you successful in life are attitude and effort. And you show up every single day with both of those. But if one of them is missing, you will not be successful that day. It's all about attitude and effort, no matter your age, really. But did you show up today? Did you show up today to be the best that you can be?
Perfect. That's why you're on here. Thank you so much. Again, I'm so just elated that we're able to have this conversation finally and have you on as a guest. And so thank you for sharing your words like you always do with the educational world. I know our listeners are going to appreciate it. So before we go, just in case they do not follow you or have not read your book, tell us what to read, tell us where to follow you, how to get in contact with you, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, so yes, I am on X. I'm still getting in the habit of calling it that. And Instagram and Boxer. I feel like people don't use that as much anymore. But anyway, my username on all three is Emily A. Paschall. And then my book is Multiply Excellence. And it is kind of, it's all about school culture and about when you reach that kid, you reach all kids. And it's filled with stories, real stories, just about the hardships of education, and that, when we have the right people in the right seats on the bus, like amazing things can happen for kids.
Perfect. It's a great read. Go get it today if you haven't already. And you'll be a better educator and a better person because of it. So thank you again, Emily. Thank you to all of our listeners who listened in. I can't wait to share the rest of these episodes in this season with you, because they are just really gold nuggets that I know you're going to enjoy, but also you're going to take and make you a better educator and make you a better person as well. That's all we got. Emily, thank you again. Absolutely. All our listeners, don't forget to be great today.